Welcome back. We look at chiropractic as having three phases. The first phase is when you're starting with, is a so-called intensive phase. The intensive phase is like when you start with anything, you need to do something more frequently to get you out of the state of where you are, talking about stress, and into the state where you want to be, which is healing and enjoying your life. And so this, what we call Achterbahn or health roller coaster, explains a little bit about what that's designed to be. So the first phase you'll see on the left is what we call intensive phase. This is where we are now, and this is the only decision you'll need to make in the short term. The rest of it I'd like to explain so you know how we see your care going, even if you choose not to do this yourself. But at least then you know in advance what it is. You'll see that there's a second phase of care here, and this dotted line in the middle represents a symptomatic point. So above it, you don't feel much, below you do. Now, what we hope is that very quickly you'll get to the point where you go, I'm feeling really good. Why should I continue? Now, at this point, there's a lot of people who, because of their outside life, decide, maybe I don't need to keep going with care, and they drop out. Now, unfortunately, what almost always happens, and you see this down to the right on the curve, the problem is more likely to come back and back and back over and over again, and in time, often it becomes even worse. Long term, we have a phase called intensive or TUF, or perhaps just checkup care. And the idea here is to find a frequency of care that works the best for you, so that when you come in for a checkup, all we need to do is a little bit like the dentist, just clean things, that we don't need to repair anything and there's no major issue. Now, if everything's going well in your life and everything's beautiful and balanced, that may only be once a month. We do have people, however, that are in a lot more stress, and they come in between once every 2 weeks to every 4 weeks. It just depends, but the idea is for us to find a frequency that works best for you. Now, the middle phase and the first phase have a similar concept in the background, and this concept is all about muscle memory and ligament memory. So if you think about if we're correcting a misalignment or a joint in your spine that's not working well, then the muscles and ligaments around that will have changed in the course of time. So it'll be a bit shorter, a bit tighter, and what we need to do is allow them time to rebuild. Now, they rebuild at different paces. The muscles rebuild faster because they're getting messages, and there's also a lot of blood. The ligaments, a little bit like a rubber band in the office, are very passive things. They don't really get controlled and there's very little blood supply, so they take more time. So the second phase is all about giving the ligaments time to rebuild. Now, when the problem's been really chronic or maybe after an injury, that process could take 6 to 12 months, just so that you know. And the first phase, we're fighting mostly against muscle memory, but the great thing is they respond fast. And we're looking at a time period of between 6 to 12 weeks to get muscles back to an even keel, especially around the spinal joints. So when we look at a care plan alternative, in these three phases, the frequency changes from mostly at the start it's twice a week. In the middle phase, it goes between once a week up till every 2 or 3 weeks. And then if it's working really well, as I mentioned before, in the maintenance care, we're going to look at hopefully once a month. But most people who get to that phase realize that they benefit from more frequent care. That's how we look at chiropractic. But as I said, the only thing you need to decide when you come in, and this decision will be made by you at home after our second appointment when we present a care plan to you, and that will be to decide, will I start and look at the first phase of care or not? How do we know how you're progressing? We're going to do re-exams frequently. So everything that we did at the first exam will then be repeated on a frequent basis, mostly every 12 appointments. So we can do a real test and you can get feedback yourself. Hey, how do I feel and how is my body functioning? Because it's how your body functions that we really want to pay attention to. I hope that's made things nice and clear. There's one more short video, and that's just looking at the legal stuff. Hang in there.